In 1943, American infantry faced German tanks with almost nothing but desperation. Anti-tank rifles bounced off armor, and grenades required getting dangerously close to the target. Everything changed with a 5-foot steel tube called the M9 Bazooka. But how did an improvised weapon, fragile and deadly to its own crew, become the answer to the infantry's greatest fear? And could it really stop the unstoppable? The real story starts when we look at what soldiers risked before this weapon arrived. American infantrymen in the early years of World War II faced an enemy their rifles and grenades simply could not touch. German tanks, like Panzer IV and Tiger models, rolled through villages and hedgerows, their armor shrugging off small arms fire like rain on steel. Soldiers crouched in foxholes or behind stone walls, clutching bolt-action rifles and hoping for a miracle. The official anti-tank rifles issued to U.S. units, once considered a solution, proved almost useless. Their bullets flattened or shattered against thick armor, leaving tank crews unharmed and undeterred. Some men tried grenades, but getting close enough meant crossing open ground under machine gun fire, often with fatal results. Heavy anti-tank guns, the only truly reliable answer, were too large for infantry to move quickly. They needed trucks or half-tracks, and once set up, could not be shifted in the chaos of a fast-moving battle. If a tank appeared on a flank or broke through a line, infantry had little choice but to scatter or dig in and hope the armor passed them by. The gap between what the infantry had and what they needed was measured in lives lost and ground surrendered. In the field, the lack of a portable, effective anti-tank weapon was more than a tactical problem. It was a matter of survival. Soldiers talked about the feeling of helplessness as tank treads ground closer, the knowledge that nothing in their hands could stop the advance. By 1943, the demand for a weapon that 2 men could carry, deploy, and use under fire had become impossible to ignore. The answer to the infantry's nightmare came in steel and wire, the M9 Bazooka. This was not just another heavy tube. It broke down into 2 pieces, each just over 2.5 feet long, locking together with a bayonet joint in seconds. At full length, the launcher stretched 5 feet, but weighed only 15 pounds, light enough for 1 man to carry slung across his back, and compact enough for paratroopers to drop with it. The new design meant soldiers could move fast, set up quickly, and disappear before enemy tanks could react. Inside, the M9 swapped out the old unreliable battery ignition for a magneto-powered firing system. A squeeze of the trigger sent a jolt of electricity down the wire, sparking the rocket's propellant with a reliability the early models never matched. The ammunition was just as important. A fin-stabilized M6A3 rocket, loaded from the rear, carrying a shaped charge warhead capable of punching through 4 to 5 inches of armor. That was enough to rip open the sides or rear of a Panzer IV, and it could turn a lightly armored vehicle into a burning wreck with a single hit. The name Bazooka stuck, borrowed from a comedian's homemade trombone, and soon became synonymous with American firepower. With over 26,000 M9 launchers produced in 1943 alone, the weapon changed what infantry could do on the battlefield. Suddenly, 2 men could carry the answer to a tank's advance, hidden in a hedgerow or the rubble of a ruined street. The bazooka did not just fill a gap, it gave soldiers a fighting chance. A bazooka team moved as one. The gunner carried the 5-foot launcher, cradling it across his chest as he scanned for armor. The loader trailed close behind, ammunition bags slung over his shoulders, hands never far from the next rocket. Out in the Normandy countryside, thick hedgerows offered perfect cover. Teams crawled into position, flattening themselves into the brush, hearts pounding as tank engines rumbled closer. The loader selected a rocket, slid its tail first into the rear of the tube, and clipped the wires to the firing terminals. A quick tap on the gunner's shoulder signaled readiness. No words, just practiced touch. The gunner pressed his cheek to the sight, tracking the tank's movement, waiting for the right angle. Every second counted. The loader crouched well clear of the launcher's rear, mindful of the backblast, a jet of flame and debris that could kill anyone within 15 yards. Accidents happened. Training drilled it in. Clear the rear. Never break silence. Trust your partner. When the shot came, the rocket streaked out in a trail of smoke, slamming into the thin side armor of a passing Panzer IV. Internal explosions tore through the crew compartment. Soldiers melted back into the hedgerows, reloading or relocating before enemy infantry could react. In these fields, discipline and teamwork meant survival. The bazooka's power was nothing without the coordination and nerve of its two-man crew. City fighting brought new challenges and demanded sharper discipline from bazooka teams. In the shattered streets of Aachen, platoon leaders positioned crews in upper floors of factories and apartments, aiming down at the thin top armor of passing tanks. A well-placed rocket from above could punch through engine decks or turret rings, areas even thick German steel could not protect. Soldiers learned to set up overlapping fields of fire, turning intersections and alleys into kill zones where no tank could pass unchallenged. Coordination mattered more than ever. In the chaos of urban battle, a single misfired shot or careless movement could reveal a team's position. Platoon leaders mapped out angles, assigned sectors, and drilled their men to wait for the perfect shot. Bazooka crews held their fire until a tank exposed its flank or slowed to clear rubble. Multiple teams tracked the same target, each waiting for a clear line before launching. If one rocket missed or failed to penetrate, another was ready in seconds. Fire discipline was drilled into every operator. Overlapping teams meant every rocket counted, and stray shots risked friendly casualties or wasted precious ammunition. Soldiers studied silhouette cards by lantern light, memorizing the shapes and weak points of German tanks. They learned to spot the difference between a Panzer IV and a Tiger, to recognize the vulnerable tracks or the exposed rear. Training focused on identifying targets fast, acting with precision, and vanishing before enemy infantry could respond. In these tight streets, the bazooka was more than a weapon. It was a tool of teamwork, timing, and relentless pressure on enemy armor. December 1944 brought the German armor to the forest near Bastogne, where a single bazooka team waited in the ruins of a shattered building. As two Panzer IV tanks rumbled into view, the team held their fire, counting the yards, waiting for the perfect angle. When the tanks closed to 75 yards, the loader tapped the gunner's shoulder. The first rocket streaked out, slamming into the side armor of the lead tank. Flames erupted from the turret as the crew bailed out. The second Panzer tried to reverse, exposing its flank. A second rocket struck home, stopping it cold. Both hulks blocked the narrow road, trapping the rest of the column. For hours, the enemy advance stalled. That single action bought precious time for American reinforcements to arrive. In the chaos of the Bulge, one well-placed team could change the fate of an entire sector. On Okinawa, bazooka teams faced a different kind of battlefield. Japanese tanks, built with thinner armor, offered little resistance to the M9 shaped charge rockets. Marines used the weapon not just against vehicles, but to breach concrete bunkers and to blast open cave entrances along the Shuri line. In these humid jungles and rain-soaked hills, the bazooka's limits showed. Electrical contacts corroded, batteries died in the wet, and rockets sometimes fizzled instead of firing. The practical range shrank to 100 yards or less, and every shot risked a misfire. Even so, coordinated attacks, with bazooka blasts, followed by flamethrower teams, cleared enemy strongholds that rifles and grenades could not touch. Adaptable, but never perfect, the M9 was a tool that demanded as much caution as courage. Portable anti-tank weapons still define modern battlefields, just as they did in 1944. Today's javelins and NLAWs trace their lineage to the bazooka's breakthrough. The lesson endures. A single determined crew, armed with innovation, can halt armor in its tracks. History keeps repeating. Only the tools change. Share your thoughts below.